What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube, presented by Pure Options, precision crafted cannabis. Pure Options, where cannabis meets community. And you can meet Pure Options, if you haven't already, on 420 with their Lansing block party at their Frandor location. Sounds like an awesome time. I know people already who are going. Sean Kingston's going to be there, Desmond Jones, DJs, and more. A consumption event, live games, food trucks, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. or whenever it fizzles out, and some great deals at Pure Options going on. Those deals will start even before the actual date of the event, which is 420 again, April 20th, middle of next week, and we'll get into those as well. So again, coming into town for the spring football game, make a day of it. Also go to the Pure Options block party at the Frandor location. Also, our Thursday afternoon show presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the Masters, bet the Tigers, bet against the Rockies. Have some fun with it. Do it within your means, obviously. Enjoy the sign-up bonuses as well. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Free Ubers.
Hey, man. Rest in peace, OJ.
Yeah.
Shout out Fred Goldman. He's got to be happy.
Took a while for
OJ finally kicked it. 75.
Yeah. Is Fred still alive? I hope he is. I
believe so.
I
yeah.
hope he got to see that. Yeah. It's
funny
amazing.
trying to watch people eulogize OJ though. Like some people want to go like a soft, like, he was a man at the end and all this shit. It's like, dude, he's OJ.
My favorite
75.
My favorite worst one is it was a complicated legacy. Not so complicated.
Actually, it's pretty interesting. He killed 2 people, got off with that, and then stole his own shit, and then did 10 years.
Well,
in Las Vegas.
Interesting and awful legacy would be 2 things to say. But complicated sounds a little like we don't want to take away from his rushing yards with the Buffalo Bills.
Free Ubers.
He's a football player separately.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, but in this case, I don't think he is. Maybe in other cases.
Yeah, no, he is.
What about
known,
Aaron Hernandez? Is he just a
he is
separate
known
guy?
He is known more for committing 2 murders and getting away with it, sort of. Do you think OJ was scared of going to hell though, and having to see Nicole down there? Oh, jeez,
no.
It's been.
These are things I think about.
It's amazing. It's been 30 years. Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's been 30 years because there's part of me that feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
And
just constantly coming home from school and seeing the OJ trial on, and my stepmom being pregnant with my sister Kelsey, and just having to sit there and watch nonstop. Because, by the way, court coverage, my mom used to watch it too. It's fucking boring. You need editing for that kind of thing. But
and the worst thing that happened, Jesus, let's fix that
OJ
in post. Hold on,
wasn't convicted.
Oh goodness. We're gonna restart there. One of the many things that wasn't fun as a 15-year-old or 14-year-old during that whole trial was that, it was the beginning of, reality television of major news events like that. I used to come home from school, and I had an hour lunch at Lansing Sexton when I was a freshman, and I'd be able to watch, Sports Center twice in that hour I was home. And instead, all that was on anything was the OJ trial. So,
ESPN aired it too?
Oh, yeah. It was on, everything. It just took over. I think ESPN had it on. I can't remember. Yeah, it took over, soap operas. It took over, primetime networks.
I just remember the chase. I was so pissed because I loved the Knicks back then in 94. They were playing Houston, and all of a sudden they broke in. I forget what restaurant we were at, but we had the game on, and they just broke into OJ, in the white Bronco. I'm like, God damn it.
That's a really good 30 for 30 if you haven't seen it, by the way.
Oh, God,
on the one day, was it June 17th or June 24th, whatever it was.
The other OJ, the 7-part series.
Yeah, some really good stuff. They've done some good stuff in recent years.
Rest in peace, OJ.
Rest. Just rest.
See you later, OJ.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go. That's good. We are going to dig into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions, and I think it's going to be a good show. I always say that, and it really isn't up to you because you guys do great questions. It's how we answer them and how we read them and discuss them that determines whether it's a good show. I don't know why I just said that, but I did. Anyway.
So much editing I have to do after this thing.
Before we get into those Groovy Donut Twitter questions, what we're betting this weekend, presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Are you betting anything this weekend, Jason, or are you playing it cool?
Well, I would lie to you and say I'm going to play it cool, but obviously the Masters this weekend. I do kind of the lineups. I kind of like the lineups for the majors, but I think I'm going to wait till Saturday, see, moving day. Definitely going to sprinkle on the Masters, and I'm sure the Tigers will get my money at some point during the weekend.
Yeah, no, the double header with the Tigers on Saturday.
Oh boy!
And my double header philosophy. I always bet on the team I bet against the team that wins the first game because it feels like double headers are always splits. So I don't think that's
smart.
I think that's just.
I can't believe you're telling that on a podcast, and someone might steal that.
It's not actually scientific, but it just feels that way. So I bet
it makes you feel smart.
It does. It makes me feel smart. I do have some things going this week at the Masters. I thought I wasn't going to do it, and every year I'm like, don't bet golf.
Why?
Don't bet the Masters.
For the Masters,
I always lose. It's like the Super Bowl props. I lose a ton. I get overwhelmed, but I do have some things going. So this is what I like. I like Scotty Scheffler top 5. It's pretty much even money. He's playing really, really well. I don't hate that.
Bold pick.
Thank you. Trying to win here a little bit. John Rahm top 10. I
Another
like
bold one.
Yeah, about even money. Wyndham Clark a little more than 2-1 top 10.
All right.
Guy who's playing extremely well. Nobody in their first time ever wins the Masters since like Fuzzy Zeller, right, in 79 or whatever. Top 10, Cameron Smith, a little more than about 2.5-1.
Listen to this
10,
guy. He goes from I wasn't going to bet this tournament. He's got top 10s everywhere. There's only top 10.
Favorite pick.
If you have 11, it's kind of weird.
Top 10, Shane Lowry.
Jesus.
Plus 275. Also, I'm not done.
Top 20s.
Odds to win. Cameron Smith plus 30. Sorry, 37-1. Cameron Smith. Shane Lowry 5,000-1. And or 500-1. Sorry, 5,000.
Can I ask where you got Cam Smith from, though? Why you think? Is it just a sprinkle, hoping that it spikes? And
yeah. So what I do is
pretty bad.
I always listen to like 5 or 6 different podcasts on this, and then I
see that's too many.
It's the best sales pitches between the 5. I'm like, that was an interesting point. I write it down. Xander Schauffele, it's $10 pays $130. These are all like $10 bets.
What did you
largely.
not bet? Let's just
John Rahm odds to
up.
win. 10 plays 100.
Good Lord.
I like Salith Tigala. $10 pays 75. And that's a top 5 finish. And a top 10 finish, Adam Hadwin, $10 plays 100. So,
Jesus, you got half the field, Couch.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus Christ.
I went from I'm not doing this to like, holy shit, I got everybody. But somebody here has to win. I feel like I've done this smartly. I'm going to try not to play anybody live. I probably will. It's going to be a total disaster. And but that's
real quickly. While you mentioned all of that gambling, my friend Jordan, everybody's favorite Michigan fan, Jordan, is doing the NFL draft contest we did last year. We know Graham actually finished. He placed. It's a $100 buy-in. I know it's a little heavy for people, but if you want to jump in, DM me, email the show. We'll get you hooked up. I think first place pays like $1,200. So
yeah, I actually won something. I was pretty excited about that.
That's what Jordan. He's like, tell Graham he won last year.
Yeah. No, I'm in.
Because he asked me, and I'm like, I'll donate because I have no idea. The questions are too tough for me.
The question they are hard. If you really like the NFL draft, though, it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
it is, and it is an extensive amount of questions. That's the thing I remember.
It's impressive.
It is impressive. Jordan does a nice job with it. Yeah, no, if you really like the NFL draft, it's a whole lot of fun. So, DM Jason, and we'll get you hooked
Go to
up.
our show 103 on YouTube and comment.
We'll get you all hooked up. That is what we're betting. The many things we're betting this weekend, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. You can bet all of that by downloading the Firekeepers app. Or if you want to hold up the line at the window at Firekeepers Casino, take that betting card and do it slowly, and they'll really appreciate you. And yeah, so anyway, that is what I suggest.
Can I get Sahathi Gathagala, please? Like a top 10 on that, and a 5, and a 20.
Do I have Spieth yet? I'm not sure if I want Spieth.
A Spiethi.
Before we get into the Groovy Donut Twitter questions, one other thing I wanted to remind or let people know is, so we announced the winners of our Couch in the Rube 2024 bracket challenge presented by Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. I forgot to mention we had an extra bracket going on during the whole pool, which is the most Couch in the Rube thing ever. Apparently, because we had a Couch in the Rube bracket last year, somehow it automatically kicked in. It was like emailed to people for this year to join the couch. I don't know. I got to talk to CBS. I probably won't do this. There'll probably be like 2 extra brackets next year. But people joined a bracket that I didn't know existed. It was last year's bracket redone, I think, and there were like 60 people in it. And so the winner of that bracket is also going to get a prize packet from us, including a gift certificate to Midtown Brewing Company.
Last year's bracket redone. So like the teams from last year, you just had to.
So people were telling me they got an email, basically an automated email because they played last year, like rejoin the Couch in the Rube.
I think I got the same one, yeah.
Yeah, and if you joined through that, it took you to like a thing before we'd set up this year's bracket, like last year's pool. I don't know. I don't know how it happened. I can't even find it. I had to get my wife, whose best friend joined it, to
get me forensic scientist.
Yeah, it was brutal. So, but Brent Montrose, congratulations. You won the extra bracket of Couch in the Rube, and you will receive a prize packet, including a gift card to Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. And
we're going to get with some of the second, third place finishers. We're going to Tree Center Sweatshop. We're going to make some stuff.
Absolutely. And I ran into. Well, I know both the second and third place finisher in the men's bracket. I know who they are. One is a friend of mine, and the other is.
Well, don't say that on the air. People are going to think you're.
Well, no,
colluding.
No. I actually, and then the other is works for the post office and delivers mail in my neighborhood, and I run into him from time to time. So he wants a
Small world.
He wants a large Couch in the Rube shirt. That's
Gotcha.
what we know. Brooks, we appreciate you. Anyway, all right. With that said,
shit, we still have to do the questions.
Yeah, we still got to do the questions. Let's dig into the Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
All right, Eric Schultz up first, of course. What's the % chance of the following for next season? MSU doesn't bring in a wing, MSU doesn't bring in a big, or AJ Hogard is on the roster?
Good question. Straight to the point, Eric. I appreciate you for it. I would say I think the odds they don't bring in a wing are very slim. I think you're already seeing names tied to them. I think it's obvious that's a need they know they have. I've heard they understand that. And so I think very, very slim. So if we're going % chance that the following for next season doesn't bring in a wing, I would say less than 20%. Doesn't bring in a big, I would put slightly more than that they don't bring in a big, but still pretty slim. I mean, I think it's a little bit more of a delicate dance, and that's probably why you don't hear names attached, because I think there is perhaps a reaction to bringing in a big, and you're trying to figure out who fits best. We're going to get to some Groovy Donut Twitter questions in a little bit about, why it hasn't happened. And you're seeing guys still just now get into the portal. You're seeing lots of guys figure out kind of where they're going before they put their names in the portal. They hunt around with, what sort of NIL offers are out there. And I think it's very different than football, where because of the timing, like in, December, late December, January often, and you're about to start semesters, like it is a very fast process in football. You have to be on it. There's more players, in basketball, this is like a 45-day window heading into the summer with lots of rosters in flux. You hear John Calipari talk about his team at Arkansas. He goes, I met with the team. There is no team. We'll put together a roster.
Wasn't that weird seeing him with like an Arkansas logo and the pigs around him?
It was a little weird. Props to also to Scott Drew for wanting to stay at Baylor and turning down Kentucky. First guy to stay in Waco since David Koresh.
Wow. Whoa.
So, it's a 90s villain day.
You got to tell me when that heat's coming.
Sorry, the death of OJ and all that. Let's go throw a little David Koresh in there. Why not?
Koresh.
So anyway, so I do think that's a little more delicate. I think they see it as fit and getting the right person. Like, I think it's very obvious what they need in a wing. They need a sizable wing. They need somebody who can defend, who's versatile. There are different types of play, but I do think they'll bring in a big. AJ Hogard is still on the roster. I think is very unlikely. Very unlikely. I think he will command really good money on the open market with 3PS, third-party salary.
What's really good money?
I think he'll
Six figures?
Oh, of course he'll make six figures. He'll make six figures at MSU. He'll make upper six figures on the market, and I think I would be very surprised if he's at MSU though. Yeah.
Eric Schultz. We heard a lot about Booker's motor this past year. Typically, motor issues tend to be lingering issues. Should we be worried about that? If not, why not?
Well, I don't think it's something you can not be worried about. We've seen it before where certain guys never really overcome that. And I think like a guy like Brandon Dawson into his senior year would have games that you were like, why is that still an issue? When he wanted to be dominant, he really was. The promising thing about Booker, I would say, is you did not see there were like one or two games once he started playing more and consistently and better where you're like, eh. But the real motor issues that were glaring that sort of stood out, you're like, well, that guy doesn't look like he gets the intensity of this in December and even early January. Didn't seem to be there at the end. So I think that's a promising sign. Maybe it's more just a complete lack of understanding of what it was going to take. So that would be the reason not to be worried about that with him. But yeah, I don't until it's proven that it's not an issue. It is potentially a concern.
Next one from Eric. Whenever Will Tiemann is brought up, Graham gets really nervous and quickly moves to another topic. But you've got no issue telling us what you think of Shep. What gives? Is Tiemann a mob boss or something? Or is it because he's so horrific at what he does, you don't want to actually be mean? He got it!
It's the...
I mean, when you say horrific, is it horrific?
He's also the John Gotti of radio announcers, so I'm a little on edge around Will. I like Will personally a lot.
Great guy.
And you're right that I've gotten
Don't
more,
know what's happening when I listen to a basketball game on the radio.
I've
Great
got
guy.
more and more willing to talk about Matt Shepard in the sense of that didn't work, and I like Shep too. So I don't know. It is just one of those things. It's a uneasy being unkind to people you like, and frankly, the other thing with Will Tiemann, more than Matt Shepard, is I never hear his radio broadcasts anymore because I'm covering the games. So whether that makes me lucky or whatever that is, like I just don't. I mean, I used to listen to them. I remember those.
I think we have the punishment for the next bet.
Just like a season of also listening to the radio.
Well, you don't get crazy. At least 5 hours straight.
Okay. Yeah.
Or Chad Latz. Pick it. Professor, if you were the czar of the MSU spring game / event, what would it look like?
What would you, if you wanted
Pure options.
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes. The fact that there's a pure options block party right at the same time, like before and after the spring game. I mean, yes, it's perfect.
I think it's a must to be high at the spring game.
100%.
If you celebrate cannabis, yeah.
Yeah, right. So the pure options block party, numero uno. No, but what would you do? Like if you wanted to, you're going to a spring football game. It's a free scrimmage. You're not expecting like the world. You're hoping for a nice day and all that stuff. But if you were to be entertained at a spring game, what would you want it to look like?
You need the weather, obviously.
Yeah.
But also you need to have like some sort of format. I would almost charge maybe $10 at the door and give some sort of something people can show up to. I just think the free element just brings riffraff and people, right? I just think if you have to pay $10 and make it kind of just something for kids can go on the field. I don't know.
Well, they are doing a meet and greet with the players and or autographs of the players, and you can picture with
outside the stadium.
Jonathan Smith. Yep, they're doing that stuff before, and they're doing a lot of that stuff. My big ththing would be this: a spring game needs to have football, and too often there's not enough football
and food.
Well, and food, yes, good food would be great too. And what I mean by football is like they always talk about. Well, we don't have enough. Healthy bodies is always the excuse to play a real full scrimmage. Then don't play 2 full college football teams. I've seen it before where it's done where you offense versus defense, and you do some obscure, weird scoring system about who wins. Nobody cares about who wins. People want to see players who they're excited about play football.
It was a decent idea though, offense versus defense and that kind of thing. But
that's what I mean.
The scoring was weird.
But yeah, weird scoring is fine. But just do do offense versus defense, so it requires fewer players be healthy and available. It doesn't have to be overly long, but just so you get a look at everybody. And you get to, people want to see Aidan Chiles throw a pass in scrimmage situations. Give them, 5 drives of that. People really want to see that. So
let people tailgate.
Boom. There you go.
Yeah. Professor, varsity softball dad. Next, you talk about players seeing fans' negativity online and it possibly influencing their decision to not attend or transfer to MSU. My question is, what school's fan base isn't full of toxic negativity? Let me know if you find one, please.
Yeah, I think everyone varies. I mean, we're seeing it. If you look at some of the comments on Big Blue Nation right now with Kentucky not having a basketball coach, there's some stuff out there. Arkansas, not great at certain things. Everybody's got their issues with it, and everybody probably overreacts a little, and it's part of sports, right? And I think what happened with MSU more than some, and this has happened before at MSU with other teams, when guys are around for a long time and they frustrate you, it gets toxic. And it got toxic with D'Antonio at the end because his last 4 seasons were kind of like watching AJ Hogard play point guard for 4 seasons. It was that sort of vibe. And I think that is why it happens. When you get new guys, like everybody loves, the freshmen coming in, the sophomores, and everybody's really, I think, willing to give people time. It's when they become seniors and juniors and they aren't developing. But in terms of other, yeah, you're right. This is college sports in a lot of ways, and you're right. There is another one. By the way, Czar of the Spring Game, what would it look like? You'd have groovy donuts at every entrance. Let's just start there, by the way. And you can also make groovy donuts part of your Spring Game Saturday, part of your Pure Options, part of your Pure Options Saturday at the block party by going to either location. There's one on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing. If you're coming from the Williamston way, there's a Groovy Donuts there, open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. You can also place pre-orders. Get Aidan Chiles on a donut, Jonathan Smith on a donut, get OJ Simpson on a donut. They'll make you an OJ Simpson donut. They might even make you a David Koresh donut. That's really a deep dive for Monica, but she might be willing to do it. A little weird there, but nonetheless, they will do whatever donut you want. If it's something for a graduation party, if it's whatever it is, your team, your logo, you want Tigers donuts, Michigan State donuts, they're happy to do it. Go to groovydonuts.com, place the orders today, and just experience the Groovy Donuts experience, which if you have, is absolutely awesome.
JD, next. Graham, what's it going to take for you to have a sit-down with Alan Haller and ask him what exactly is going on with this Stallion CMU thing? Seems like he should be a little louder on the issue, given the overall boost the cheating gave his rival school. No? And from David Jackson. To reiterate that the MSU fan base wants blood, and with the entire Detroit media, including your brethren at the Freep, too beholden to Michigan to get to the bottom of Stallions at CMU, will the LSJ get to the bottom of this sordid mess?
So it's funny. Today I sent Matt Carini a text because he did a really, really good, impressive, well-told piece on domestic violence in this state and domestic violence laws and how they're contributing to issues and how other states have it better and how you could fix it. Important journalism. The type of stuff we hired Matt Mancarini for. So I immediately text him. I'm like, I got an idea for your next story. Conor Stallions. Easier, less serious, become the cult hero that you've always wanted to be. And I don't think he's all that excited. But so somebody's going to have to do it. It's not going to be Matt Mancarini. Who
was he not as excited because you were like, hey, man, yeah, great story today. But anyway, Conor Stallions. Let's work on that, huh? What do you think?
Let's do this one.
It's probably like, what?
Don't make me do it.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. No, he is a serious journalist who doesn't spend his time giving a rat's fuck about Conor Stallions or any of that stuff. But I am not.
Stuff that people want to read about.
I am not, right? I am not a serious journalist.
Do that?
So we will. No, this story, this needs to be done to some extent, whether it's me or somebody else. I can't believe. I have to think somebody else is already working on this to some degree. It's just ridiculous that otherwise, because it's not a couple things. One, it's not a story that I think MSU cares that much about right now. I'm telling you right now, Alan Haller probably doesn't think about this at all. It's the sort of thing that it is more of a fan obsession than than them caring. Now, CMU being silent is curious. I'm sure Michigan doesn't really want to revisit this, but it absolutely needs to be done. And
But doesn't it make it a bigger story, like the longer you don't talk about it?
100%. Yep. Should have been done. Should have been done already, and needs to be done to some degree. And unfortunately, Matt Mancarini will not be
Angelique then?
Nah,
She's gonna get on that?
Maybe it'll have to be me. Oh. What the hell?
Ileto next. Where does last year's team go if Jeremy Fears Jr. is the starter all season and AJ Hogard is the backup?
Do you think they're better or not?
I don't know about the locker room. I couldn't imagine Hogard sitting on the bench watching Fears kind of. I mean, look when he was the starter, some of the body language. I just think it would have been wild.
I think they maybe win a game or two more, a couple spots, but it's not really that much of a different season. But having said that, a game or two more gets you out of that game against North Carolina. Maybe you're in a different matchup, and who knows? But I don't think it's a drastically different year.
Ileto next. If Aidan Chiles lives up to expectations, does he alone give the football team 2 more wins this season?
Well,
I think so, right?
Yeah, there's a dangerous word here. Lives up to expectations. Like, what are the expectations for Aidan Chiles, the sophomore, first-year starter, true sophomore? Like, he is a loaded talent, but he is not a guy who even – I mean, he played behind a pretty mediocre veteran quarterback last year, which I think was smart. Not to – I mean, and he played a little bit.
But he's exciting, though, Graham.
100%.
He's like a quarterback you haven't seen here in a while. So
okay, so that's what I think expectations should be. I think expectations for sophomore Aidan Chiles should be for some exciting plays, some guy, somebody who you can see being a natural. You want to see him make good decisions. You want to see the talent, but also understanding that he may throw some passes that you go, what the hell was that? Interception like that, as sophomores do. So I don't know what expectations are for him. I think that needs to be a careful thing in year one. But I do think what you need to be better than people maybe anticipate is you need one. I mean, maybe they'll just be better on defense than we think or things like that. But you also need playmakers to emerge that you're not maybe anticipating. And he is one of them, certainly. You have a really good quarterback. You can win a couple extra games, close games. You have a guy who can make plays for you. So absolutely that could happen.
Gary Lipka next. Who was the last MSU quarterback to have the arm strength of Aidan Chiles?
Well, he's got a good arm. I don't know.
Kirk Cousins?
The strength of it. I was never. It's a good question. I don't know yet because I haven't watched him throw in that sort of setting enough. I just because they've had guys with pretty good arms. I mean, even Brian Lewerke, like pre-injury, had a pretty live arm. He just didn't have the accuracy. They've had some guys.
O'Day, he was throwing it, rifling it.
You missed the O'Day, don't you?
I don't know. I missed the bit. Gavin Haas, after the first few games of the season, what's a proper expectation for the Tigers this season?
Yeah.
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
So I think it's about where it was before. I think it's to be competitive in that division and playing meaningful baseball in September and finding a way to do that. And the more they win, even if they can keep it, even if some of it's smoke and mirrors, even if it's the pitching staff, the more it will motivate them, I think, to find a bat if they need to in season, right? You're not going to be a seller if you're in the hunt. That's the thing.
You can't be a seller ever.
Again. Well, at least for 10 years. Not for this run.
Right, but you can't be a seller if you're the Tigers right now, right? I mean, that'd be insanity.
The only way
Avila level shit.
The only way you're a seller is if like you got an extra starter, everybody stayed healthy, and I don't think all 5 or 6 starters will be pitching well, so I think it'll sort itself out. But somebody offers you just an offer, you're like, all right, we got to do that. But yeah, you're not selling. You're selling. You're not damaging this team. You got to go get a bat. But yeah, I think it's to be in contention.
Next one from Gavin Haas. Bazooka to the head. Where does MSU basketball rank to end next season in comparison to this previous season? And from T-Bone's dad, if Jeremy Fears is fully healthy next season, what is both his ceiling and floor for the year?
Okay. So
bazooka time.
There's so much to still be sorted out in terms of who they add, development, and so I think ceiling and floor for the team is something that I like. There's a chance that they're a team that doesn't make the tournament. I don't think that's likely. I didn't mean to sound like Stout there. I don't think that's likely. But
I don't know.
But because, I do think they'll be good enough at the guard spots, and at the very least, Booker will take enough of a step, and their big men will be okay. They should be a tournament team. But the real question, they could be a team that's in contention if guys really takes, like if somebody like Jaden Akins is capable of 15-point score and if Booker takes a massive leap, that sort of guy changes a lot of things. And so Jeremy Fear is fully healthy. What is his both ceiling and floor? I think his floor is being a solid guy who, is a 10-point, 5-assist guy who shows you flashes of, and maybe fairly consistent, gets guys shots, but isn't a guy who's can carry you yet or do anything like that. I think that's probably the floor. His ceiling is, holy crap, this guy's fully healthy and really emerges into a great point guard.
Next one from Gavin. What's the ceiling for MSU football next season, and the floor and the roof? What's the roof first? What's the roof?
Standard response, right? Between 4 and 8 wins. Is that what we say? Ceiling 8, floor 4.
Yeah.
There's enough bad teams. They should eclipse that. And I do think, I think their defense is going to be okay. You listen to some of those guys on defense who are sophomores, juniors, guys who were third-year guys, second-year guys who were part of the Mel Tucker top classes who stuck around and seem to be buying in, even if this isn't what they signed up for. I think that's going to be a pretty competent core of guys. And so I don't think they'll be awful on defense, and that should help.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
Couch on Fire, what's your sense out of the football coaching staff? Guarded optimism? ?
About them or out of them? I don't trust anything in the spring anymore. I was once told that Benny Fowler was ready to be Jerry Rice before the 2012 season.
The Ebling?
What's that? No, by the coaches.
Oh.
The interviews when I first started covering MSU football before that 2012 season when the receivers dropped 66 passes for Andrew Maxwell. Well, unlike anything I've ever seen, I was like, holy crap, these guys are ready. This is going to be amazing. And it was my first year covering the team. And I had previously covered a coach who had a number of great receivers, and I had learned to speak his code when I was in Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
So I kind of got it. Like he wouldn't, even if he wasn't saying shitty things about a kid, I could tell when there was trouble. I could tell when a kid was going to be really good. And it took me a while to figure that out with Antonio, and they took the wrong approach, blowing smoke in the guys who weren't ready. But anyway, so I don't have that vibe. I have no idea if they think this team has got a long way to go or if they think they'll be okay. I don't know what to trust and how to know how to read that yet.
Couch on Fire, what's your new Tigers over-under predictions?
If you had to bet today, what would make you go over?
I would go over?
Yeah.
If they picked up a bat somehow.
No, what
if
I
they
mean
started
is,
scoring some sort of runs and not having one run in deep in the 7th inning.
So even at 7-4, having come back to score 5 runs the other day, and I know that's just one game.
Pirates, yeah.
So say, what would the number be as you've seen them look so far for you to say I'll take the over? 74 wins, 80 wins?
I would say 76 wins.
Okay.
I would be more excited about it. Just maybe 80. I don't know. It's like I said, I felt ridiculous overreacting, but it was just it was just terrible watching that A series and then watching the start to that Pittsburgh series. Like, fuck, here we go again, and just having to think about a whole nother season wasted.
Well, and they don't have enough Venezuelans on the roster to justify it either. Like in the old days, the Venezuelans hate April in the D, right? It's like, it's just cold as shit. Nobody wants to be playing baseball. Nobody wants the sting of the bat. Those guys would heat up as soon as May hit. And now it's like you got way too many American-born white dudes on that roster not to be hitting in April. Like there's
and
no
when
excuse.
you show up and Miggy has his uniform on, he's ready to play. It's like, oh shit, our lineup is ass. Ryan Schultz, question for Jason. You're Tom Izzo, legend. AJ sits down in your office today and says, "I think the best thing for me is to return to this team next season." How would you handle this conversation? Well, I'm sure Izzo would handle it a lot better than I would. Because I would be like, no, seriously, what's happening now? Is it April Fool's Day? No, it's the 11th. It's 10 days past. The joke's not funny anymore, AJ. Like, what are we doing here?
Why are you here is what you said.
Yeah, what are you doing here? I thought we said the goodbye thing and your locker's cleared, right? Someone cleared it, right?
I am more than.
I don't know. I mean, why? I would think AJ Hogard has enough self-awareness and sat down with Tom and just said they talked it out. Because, Izzo was talking about him like almost in the past tense of like we're just going to move on. So
no, I think,
in a roundabout way.
I think there is no intention of AJ Hogard coming back, at least from MSU's side. And I can't imagine. I think AJ knows at this point it's a matter of.
But why is it so like, I don't know, like walking on eggshells or something? Like this is today's college hoops. I mean, he's going to get, as you say, he's going to get broke off and make high six figures. So who gives a shit? I mean, why is there any kind of that heavy of ties to letting the guy go?
Well, and here's the deal. Like what you're seeing now at Purdue, they oversigned for next year because they've got this COVID year, situation with guys having an extra year. And so like Mason Gillis in the portal. He'll go get an NIL. Like they're all done at Purdue, even though, I mean, that was sort of the understood deal there, is that they were going to play a fifth year elsewhere. They still have this year of eligibility, but they've done 4 years at Purdue. And I think that what's going to get really interesting in the sport, in both football and basketball, but especially basketball, is once the extra COVID year is gone. Because, one, I can't wait for it, because it'll bring clarity to things. It'll also help the transfer portal to some degree, because a lot of what you're seeing, I mean, people are transferring it every year constantly, but there are a lot of fifth-year guys transferring right now, a lot of extra guys out there. I think we'll get a real sense for exactly how much of a problem it is. And it's one of those things that we have to see college athletics in some ways as it's going to be before we know the extent of the issue. But
you almost have to get out in front of it, though, right? Are you just going to wait till some
I know what I would
happens?
do. What I would do is change the conversation immediately and start talking about what a mistake the one-time transfer rule. I know they've sued now, so you can transfer as many times as you want. I would start pushing back on that shit. It is not a punishment to sit out. I would start pushing back on that. You'd have some waivers, but it is not a punishment to sit out and get an extra free year of college with all the swag and the training and all that stuff. The NIL is always there. And I would start requiring in every sport so it was even. Even the sports you previously didn't have to sit out, like volleyball, you got to sit out now. We're not doing this, because it is, people can say that's anti-player, but anti-player is also a system that screws over the high school kids, that screws over 80% of the transfers that don't wind up with a better situation. I understand it's freedom and all this, and screws over future generations where sports may not exist for them to make any money, or may not exist in the form it is now for them to make any money. You're not being anti-player by saying this ain't it. And so there's a lot of stuff. But I also believe we will see college basketball look a little different, a little younger again. But yeah, it sucks. The idea that you can't build anything, that every year is just this assembling a team of free agency. Fans overall, yeah, you get excited when your team gets some people. And right now there's this every year meat market of who you get in the portal. Nobody thinks about high school recruiting much anymore, but it's not an exciting way to be a fan for the most part. I don't think people are going to like this. There's not the common bond of somebody choosing you and choosing your school and staying with your school and growing with your school. And I'm telling you right now that this is not a way forward for college hoops that's going to make it a healthy sport in 10, 15, 20 years. So it ain't pro player to say the next generation of players fucked unless we do something.
T-Bone's dad was Dan Hurley's approach he shared on evaluating parents as part of the recruiting process. As beautiful to you as it was to me. His comment of parents will tell on themselves was just perfect.
Did you see this?
I did not. No.
It was interesting. I mean, he just talked about when they recruit, they evaluate parents very, very closely. They want to see parents who are parents and not fans. They want to see parents who deal with their kids or allow their kids to be held accountable and hold them accountable more than it was good. And you need coaches who are having success. The reason it's great when Dan Hurley says it is when Tom Izzo says something like that. It's like this old crotchety MF, like he hasn't won in 4 years, past his time. That's the response. Dan Hurley right now is lauded. When you're the guy who's in his 40s who says that and just won 2 straight national championships, everybody goes, oh. So, it's helpful when he says
But is that going to change the way parents act, especially with 5-star guys? And
yeah, I would never recruit a player. Very rarely, I shouldn't say never, because there could be circumstances. I would be very careful about recruiting players who went to more than 2 high schools. Because what are the odds a kid who went to 3 high schools is going to go to 1 college? That's what I want to know.
Maybe he goes to yours for 1 year and you win a natty.
Yeah, but nobody's winning with young kids anymore. They're all winning with older guys. So it doesn't seem, I don't know. Yeah.
Rob Bennett next. Let's hear the official Couch in the Rube Masters picks. And from Kurt Wisniewski, as the Masters greens look like big, beautiful, groovy donut holes, who will win the granddaddy of all tourneys?
Do you have a pick?
I do. Well, I have. It's tough because I'm rooting for him as well. But Rory McIlroy, and Brooks. Listen, man. Rory to complete that career Grand Slam at the Masters. I mean, he's playing
fun.
He's always in contention. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler, but I mean that's everybody's auto pick.
Rory on a Sunday would be tremendous. I think.
And Tiger.
Yeah, Tiger. If Tiger was still there on Sunday, Tiger getting to the weekend would be something. The Tiger Woods not to make the cut bets. I just can't root against Tiger Woods not to make the cut.
No,
it's just not fun. The other thing is, everybody goes, "Oh, even money." It seems like he wouldn't make the cut, and the weather's not great. The thing about the Masters, though, is also there are fewer players overall at the Masters, so a larger percentage makes the cut, and there are more like guys who are grandfathered in, who are like in their 50s and 60s still playing, who aren't really serious competitors who Tiger may beat. So it's not like another.
And he knows every inch of that course, and maybe he can fire something low. And it's just an ass bet.
It's an ass bet because Tiger Woods being around on the weekend is fun.
Yeah,
and we all want that. Yeah.
Alan Perlstein next. Do you think that the incoming Big Ten teams from the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, will all have winning records in the conference of the season?
Are we talking football? So let's say football. Oregon, Washington, USC. Like Washington's rebuilding a fair bit. I don't know. UCLA has not been that great. No, I would say no. The odds of all 4 of them, no. I would say absolutely not. Oregon probably yes. Washington's probably got enough depth of talent, yes.
UCLA, I don't see them.
No, I don't see UCLA doing it. But winning records in the conference. No, there's going to be. I'm very curious to see how those schools handle. And I know it's just once a week, but a lot of cross flight trips. Hold on, let me pull up something real quick.
Free Ubers.
All right. So here's UCLA's football schedule. UCLA opens at Hawaii. That wasn't smart. Because now you got to go the other way. Then 2 weeks later, they host Indiana. Okay. And then the non-conference. Boy, they fucked this up. UCLA goes to LSU. Then they host Oregon. Then they go to Penn State. Then they host Minnesota. Then they go to Rutgers. Then they go to Nebraska. Then they host UCLA, host Washington, host SC. Gets better at the end. But there's a stretch where from September 21st through November 2nd, they go to LSU, to Penn State, to Rutgers, to Nebraska. Like that sucks. And I think there's going to be some buyer's remorse.
But you start out in Hawaii, though.
Right, going the other way. Let's take a long flight to start the trip. Let's start the year. Yeah.
The only callers, CAW. Illinois already has 2 transfers coming in and are looking at more. I hate to be impatient, but what is MSU waiting for? There are obvious needs. Are they going to get filled?
Well, you're only adding a couple guys at most, unless somebody else leaves. So, you want to get the right guys. Guys are still getting in the portal now. Coaches are still leaving. Kentucky's guys are still just now getting in the portal. This isn't as fast as process. You only get a couple shots of this. You got a guy who's committing, next Monday, who's rumored to have Michigan State among his finalists, and you have, and so maybe that'll be the wing. I don't know defensively if he's the right fit or not. Like, you only get one of these guys, and so it's not about just getting a guy or getting a guy that makes you slightly better. The idea is to be in contention again, and you've got to pick and recruit the right guy, and you've got to negotiate that within your own roster and with NIL and all. I don't think it's as quick. Something's going to happen. This roster as is not going to just be run back. I feel very confident in that. I just think it needs to be. It's something that takes a little more patience. and the whole process with college basketball is so different than football too, because some guys, declare for the draft and the transfer portal, and you got to wait for them to see what they're going to. This whole thing can take a little bit more time. I don't think there's the urgency to jump on the first guy you see, unless somebody you see is like that is the ideal fit for us. Then you go ahead and do it.
Jimbo Jones next. After watching UConn run amazing offensive sets and destroy Purdue in the second half of the title game, how do we expect MSU to compete when A, we consistently ran a stagnant half-court offense all year, and B, we are trying to get transfers from schools like Omaha?
That's the other thing. You watch all these transfers, and a lot of transfers, good mid-major players, and some of them wind up being very good at the next level. Some of them are under-recruited because of the transfer portal, and that there's been a ripple effect into the high schools. But, keep in mind that Tyson Walker was an 8.8 points per game scorer as a first year. That's about what Brandon Wood averaged at Michigan State. Mid-major guys coming up to the next level are often good role players, even if they were elite mid-major guys. So that's also something to see when everybody gets excited about. Man, look at what this guy could do. There is a difference in levels, and finding your level matters. We all know, like the Foster Lawyer story, how good he was at Davidson. He found his level, but wasn't a Big Ten player in a lot of ways, or at least one who was a good starter at the Big Ten level. How do you expect MSU to compete? You got to get the horses to do so. I do think they're going to change their offense a little bit. I haven't talked to Izzo about this extensively, but I've heard a little bit of just rumblings over there. I think there's some stuff they want to do differently within their offense. I think some of it they wanted to do last year, but I think there's some things they think that they'd like to be able to try. And Booker is somebody that and Kohler to an extent as well are give them a chance to do some of that.
And we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
MZA up next with Nate Oates not moving for the Kentucky job. Does this mean MSU couldn't land him when Izzo eventually retires?
No, it doesn't. I mean, it'll be a different situation for him. It'll be, a couple years at least down the road. He may think differently. Guys change their minds on things.
And he has it good at Alabama right now.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody's kind of leaning on the basketball program to wait to see what DeBoer's going to do.
He's spent a decade at Romulus High School. He's got connections here. Like this, this could be a place that he views a certain way. And
the Kentucky job isn't what it used to be.
No, it's a different type of fishbowl. Now, Michigan State will be a challenge as well for the expectations of the next coach. But it is going to be interesting when that situation happens, because one thing, it is impossible to build the way you used to at a mid-major. So a mid-major coach who's really good is going to be harder to spot in terms of their consistency. A great mid-major coach may have a 27-6 record one year, and the next year be 11-19, and you've got to not hold that against them, or you're going to pass up on a great coach. Because what happens is they go 27-6, and everybody picks their roster apart, and they go, in the transfer portal, and it's impossible to sustain something. It's going to be a very hard thing to navigate around. A lot of coaches aren't going to stay at that level, but it's not that Nate Oates would absolutely, I think, be worth a call a couple years from now, whenever Izzo goes, if things continue for him at Alabama the way they've been.
MZA, what would be your ideal portal haul? Specific players.
Yeah, I'm not going to do the specific players because I don't know. I've watched a lot of, I see all the names, and I watch YouTube videos out there of guys, and I try to, get a sense of it. I have not this week because I've been off, but prior to this week. And I do think what you need is somebody who's got length on the wing, can fill in at the 4 for you if you want to go small there too, but can defend the 3 and is somebody who can rebound and get to the – you need a really good athletic 4. It's like wing who's at least 6'6", 6'7", that range. That's what you're looking for. That is an absolute must. And then you want somebody who ups your rebounding a ton. And ideally, obviously your defense too. But I think the guy you're looking to – and maybe there's a guy who's better than this, but if you found an Antonio Smith type out there, right, that is what you're what really would make a difference. Somebody who's a communicator, who's a great rebounder, who's got some toughness and edge to them inside. I think those are things that can play guard multiple interior positions. I think those are things that you'd want.
Jarrett up next. How do you get to a Maui invite tickets? I'm going to Hawaii around then and would love to go.
Yeah, it's a good question.
You got the hard part.
Yeah.
You're going to Hawaii.
I don't think they're impossible to get, but MSU will get an allotment, I think, and it's a good question, but it shouldn't be easy to find. Just Maui Invitational tickets. If you're going to Maui or going to Hawaii, it's worth doing. Let me mention this though to anybody who's ever traveled to Hawaii.
Uh-oh.
Because I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
Just a humble brag here. But the first time in 2016, my wife went with me. She's gone with me both times, naturally. Like when she never goes to West Lafayette, Hawaii. She's like, yeah, well, let's do that.
No shit.
Yeah, you think? So the first time, Michigan State is opening the season against Arizona in 2016, and it's the first game of Miles Bridges and Cassius Winston, all those guys, and that's in Honolulu. So we figure we'll spend the weekend in Maui. Great idea. We don't do any research. We don't have any idea how far Maui is from Honolulu. We think it's like a canoe ride, or maybe at worst, it's a ferry. It's a whole separate fucking flight. And so, yeah, we wound up.
But I thought you're the logistics guy.
Yeah, usually I am. I let her handle this part of it. She was excited about it. She planned this whole weekend in Maui. And then later on, we were like, yeah, that's not just a. So we booked a separate flight. And
you got the plane.
That was fine. It worked out okay. It was just be prepared for that. And if you book your flight separately from your initial trip, what happened to us could happen to you, where if one flight gets delayed in Maui, you're in danger of missing the last flight off the island heading to LA out of Honolulu, and that's what nearly happened. It was like a scene out of a movie. I ran more and sweated more in the 10 minutes to make that gate and get through security in Honolulu, because you had to go back through security because it was a separate flight. Back through security. It's an outdoor airport. It's like 90 degrees. We get to the security station. My wife goes through first. She shows them the boarding time on her boarding pass, and she says, "What should I do?" And they tell her, "Run." So she drops everything and takes off running. So I grab all my suitcase stuff, her suitcase stuff. I'm carrying like 1,200 things, just dripping sweat, just hustling, hobbling like a 400-pound man, as fast as I can. She's holding the gate. We get there, of course I'm just, and we get on there, and David Harns was on the plane, and I can't remember if he took a picture or just said something like, not looking great couch, or he tweeted about me looking out of breath and looking like an awful.
Does he have this photo?
I don't know. I'll have to ask him, but it's not my finest. But yeah. So anyway, book the flights together if you're going to Maui and you're also going to Honolulu. Like, do a little more pre-planning. That is a story not worth telling, but I told it anyway. Presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company here in downtown Lansing. An awesome place for brunch on Sundays, to catch a Tigers doubleheader on the weekends, or just a beer after work, whatever the occasion. Go to midtownbrewing.net to check out their awesome menu and drink selections. My favorite drink on a rainy day like this, the American Stout, a beer conversation about journalism with Matt Mancarini. It's about as nostalgic and cool as you can get.
C-Dubs 91, are we to assume Hogard is back at this point? What are your sources telling you? And from Cameron Lesman, why hasn't AJ entered the portal yet? It's obvious that the team is being handed to Fears.
Yeah, I don't know with Hogard, and to be fair, I mean,
is he thinking about the pros?
So
possible.
I am off this week. We're doing the show, but I'm off work. So one of the things that I am not doing this week,
answering your phone,
is making calls. Right, because the worst thing that could happen is like, I should check in with Izzo or with and Izzo gives me like tons of good stuff, great conversation. Well, now I got to write a column on that. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't. I do not want that. I don't want that. And I apologize for not having more intel when I'm back next week.
So you don't want info to have to write a column?
I don't want to. I'm not working this week.
Oh,
right.
Yeah,
we're doing I don't want something that.
So you can't throw them a freebie? I mean, how long have you been an employee? Give back a little bit.
Yeah, that's not what I want to do after 8 months without a week off. Not that lots of people in this world don't work 8 months. I apologize. I sound like an ass. I have a great, charmed life. I just, Yeah, so I don't know why he's not in the portal yet, but I wouldn't read a whole lot into it. Nobody that I've touched base with, and I have touched base on this, thinks it's likely he's back.
C-Dubs 91, what are both of your most and least favorite or reliable sports to bet on, and why? Well, baseball's, your best shot at maybe winning some cash on the long-term
Why do you think
side.
that? Why do you think that?
I don't know. There's so many numbers to figure out. I mean, Jesus, I don't know. I know it's going to have to break down baseball.
Well, no, but a baseball is so random in a lot of ways. It's a hard sport to bet. But if you're talking about long-term, why do you like betting?
Just because it gives you the best odds. It's kind of like, blackjack, where you have a slight edge. I just think that there's so many variables it's so hard for Vegas to set a proper line for baseball games in the long term anyway. I mean, and by the way, I mean winning money like 51% of the time. I'm not talking about winning thousands and thousands of dollars, but definitely, I mean, golf is honestly, sadly, it's one of my favorites to gamble on, but it's also the hardest.
It's the worst.
And the sport I really love. So
yeah, I think
football parlays, obviously, those are always fun.
Football's a great gambling sport, and that's part of its popularity, right? I mean, it is a good. I think any sport really well. I love betting on soccer, just because of the I love betting underdogs in soccer, and not huge money, but it's one of those things where if you, especially live, the variance of what can happen in a game, and you get a team that's like plus 400 to win, and they've got to win. They can't just tie or you lose your money. But even on the draw no bet, which means they tie, it's voided. Sometimes the home road splits are really severe, and you'll see a team you're like they're good enough to win there, and so I really enjoy that.
At least in soccer, I know I shit on soccer, but they do one thing right where they get it wrapped up in 2 hours. Baseball, you do a 3-leg parlay where it starts at 1 and ends at 8 o'clock. You can just have a slow. You hit the first 2 legs of that parlay. The third one's at like an 8 o'clock game. It's just a slow death. So sometimes it can suck.
Yeah. No, and anything you chase,
Here's all the gambling problems.
Yeah, no,
don't chase.
Yeah, there are lots of least. I mean, when you say reliable sports to bet on, there's no reliable sport to bet on. It's not. It's not really a. There have been years where you get something that's great. Like you can get a year where the Tigers are so bad in baseball that you can make money betting against them, or you can get a year where, like right now, at the top of the Premier League, there are 3 teams that cannot afford to lose: in Manchester City, Arsenal, and Liverpool, because they're all within a point of each other with like 7 games left, and they're all better than everybody else. And so they're, really reliably, although Liverpool slipped up last week, like if you parlay 2 of them or parlay 3 of them with something, like there are some reliability sometimes there, but it's just not a Golden State when they were at their best, like a series favorite, there are ways to parlay them in all sorts of basketball, but there's just not that in the NBA anymore. It's very hard to find things that are reliable.
Spartan Johnny and Stupidest Shardy next. Why does it feel like Couch is conditioning us for Izzo to take no action on our need for a center? Our greatest need is a wing? I mean, we cannot play either of the 2 centers we currently have with Carr on the floor at the same time, as it would be on 3-on-5 offensively. Does Izzo really think keeping Kohler is more important than getting someone better?
So a couple things. I am, and again, I have not talked to Izzo directly about this, but I would be, and I do think he still has hope for the 2 guys he has and Booker and how he used them. And I'm not as confident in that as I am at the wing spot, but I do think they're gonna do something there. I do. Nothing I've heard says I shouldn't say nothing I've heard, but they need to upgrade that position, and unless they know something about the way they're planning to play that is different, the wing is without question. They just don't. You can't run that wing back, especially with I think the plan to have Jaden Akins at the 2. So I think that's sort of an understood situation, but yeah.
All right, Spartan Johnny next. Idea. How about we fucking go get a really good center and wing? MSU can afford what they need. What are we waiting for? More players to enter the portal? I feel like I'm waiting for Graham's oatmeal story to end. Let's go. And from DeUper. When do you expect Izzo to bring in a portal transfer? The roster needs are all well known, so what's the delay? The longer Izzo takes, the higher the fan expectations will be. At this point, anyone less than Lou Alcindor will be a disappointment.
Yeah, like they can't afford them, and I think they'll get what they need. You know that the Frankie Fiddler kid has a visit. I think it's
Frankie Fiddler.
Yeah, it's this weekend. If not
name.
Coming up soon, and he's supposed to commit soon. But again, is Trey Townsend? There are elements of his game I think would really be great. Is he a total fit? I don't know. I'm sure he would have some interest, being a Michigan guy. I'm sure he would be able to play at that level. And to what degree does he upgrade who you are? There's an argument significantly. I do think they're going to have a wing here. I would be surprised within a couple weeks' time. I think the center position or the big man position is a little more delicate in that you're trying to keep your guys and bring somebody in. And but I'm also I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised there hasn't been more chatter about that sort of thing.
It is kind of weird though that AJ hasn't really said anything though, right?
With AJ?
Yeah. I just figured he'd come out and say I'm in the portal.
Maybe
going to the NBA. I mean, anything.
But if you're AJ, you're somebody who may be trying to figure out your next move before you jump.
Sure.
And so that may require not being in the portal.
It just seems like players don't take their time like that. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on with him.
All right, Spartan Johnny next. I want Izzo to win one more so I can stop caring so much about men's hoops. I feel similarly about the NFL and my Bills. How much pure options will we need to deal with this BS flags this fall based on the new tackling rules? What sport haven't we ruined?
I'm kind of worried about these new rules. Every time there's something that like I'm just waiting for, it'll be like the Lions ahead in the fourth quarter, come up with a stop. Nope, flag on the back end because there's one of these new can't tackle with the hip rule bullshit things. I didn't know it was such a problem. I don't know. Are you concerned
it's
about
the last way you could tackle guys. So yeah,
right.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous that we're gonna have like flag football soon.
And I do think
a couple years
that players can be at the forefront of this. The Players Association can fix this because players will tell you flat out they would rather be hitting the head or hitting the hip than hitting the knee. So have players at the pro level.
Well, do they all say that?
A lot of them. They don't want to redo their knees. They'd rather be hit a lot of plays. I don't know. It's universal. I'm just saying I'm not saying you want to hit them in the head either. I'm just saying
I don't have a brain, but I can still walk.
The last thing left to do is cripple somebody in their knees. So if that's what needs to be done, then that's what we're doing now, I guess. That's the last place you can hit somebody. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I wouldn't want that.
Jeremy Fears Truther next. People keep screaming that Tom needs to add a big in the portal, but do they realize he won't add one unless either Cooper or Kohler leave? He won't carry 13 players and 4 centers on the roster. One of those two will have to go before Tom looks for a big win in the portal.
So I think I would be a little surprised if he has a full roster. And I think there's some truth to this. But when you say 4 centers, you're talking about playing a guy. You're talking about Xavier Booker as a center. And if you don't see him as a center, if you see him as your starting 4-man, that changes that equation a little bit. And then you do not have much depth at the 4. And I think what's really important here is it's not about just the big man. It's about somebody who can rebound. It's about somebody who can play the 4. It's about somebody who gives you some experience and depth there. They don't have much of it. They don't have. You can say carry 4 centers. It sounds like they got way too many guys. But when you think about Cooper, Kohler, Booker as pretty much it at the 4-5s, that is not enough. And 2 of those in certain types of matchups, those guys can't defend the 4 either. There's and you can say, well, Cohen Carr plays a little 4, and right now he is that's what he's able to do because he doesn't have a lot of other skill to his game. But he's 6'5". So I think there will still be movement on this roster. I don't know that everybody, I guess if you had to ask 50-50 or what would the odds be of everybody who's other than AJ Hogard, Mady Sissoko's obviously in the transfer portal, but everybody else returning, I would say it's less still than 50%.
Oh yeah.
And so I just think that we're just not used to it. It's all pretty new. It's a longer process. Guys,
also because you don't know what is going on with guys in their minds right now, right?
And you don't
happen next week if they want to transfer.
And who's still going to get in the portal? I mean, like the Kentucky guys, and what was the ripple effect going to be of that if Scott Drew had left on the Baylor guys, and who's still popping in late? I just there's enough. They're on pace. There's already like 1,400 guys in the portal. There's going to be 2,000. This isn't like there aren't enough guys to sift through and find a guy. There's a lot of dudes in the portal. It is, and to figure out the right one that you want to pursue, and what makes the most sense for your roster and to fit your guys to play with. It's not as simple as just grab a guy. There's got to be fit to it. There's really has to be fit. Otherwise, you wind up. Otherwise, you're just going to get a guy that everybody on here is complaining about next year. You got to get somebody who upgrades it or complements you in a certain way.
Peasy up next. What has Troy Weaver done to justify having another off season in charge? How can getting worse every year be a part of the plan? I'm not understanding where your faith in him is coming from, Graham.
My faith in is being sort of scorned by previous iteration. Like I'd rather have a guy who brings in promising young players and has lots of flexibility in terms of cap for trades. You're not going to sign.
He's going after
agents.
retread after retread.
100%. But the last, Joe Dumars at the end was signing Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva. So
what does that mean?
What I'm saying is
okay.
And then you get the Andre Drummond, Greg Monroe, worst pairing in the history of freaking basketball. And the mopiest dudes I've ever seen in my life, like who just stat stuffers who never win a damn game. Like that was who previous iterations thought was okay. I'd rather have flexibility, and he's created flexibility. Is he the right guy to carry on from that flexibility? I don't know. I don't have a tremendous amount of faith in him but I also don't know to what degree certain things have been pushed by the owner and pushed by him. And I think those are questions that need to be asked. I do think I have tremendous doubts about his ability to build a roster around these four guys. At the very least, he needs help because he may be a terrific guy at scouting certain types of young talent, a guy you want in your organization, but he may not be a guy you want running your organization, but you can keep him with that title if you supplement the front office with somebody who's really good at that other part. So I'm not saying he has to go. I don't have tremendous faith in him. I don't have tremendous faith in a lot of people in the big in the NBA. It's a sport full of GMs for years and years and years that have made dumb decisions based on height, and they've drafted stiffs and guys that didn't turn out that seems so obvious. And then they've created rosters with zero flexibility. How you ever wind up in a position where the Chicago Bulls are right now is beyond me, or any position where somebody is stuck in the middle. And you're also in a weird spot, too, where, and this is where I don't have faith in Weaver, like in the new NBA with salaries, you get to really sign and pay two guys, like big money. Well, if both those guys aren't a 1 and a 2 on a championship team, then you got to let dudes walk. And you got to be bold enough to say that. And you got a very little bit of time to evaluate the guys on your roster and figure out which of those, if any, besides Cade Cunningham, are worth paying that next contract. I don't have a ton of faith in him, but I don't have faith in anybody else either. So that's where it is.
Richard Kane, with Edie gone, which player will fans bitch about next season for receiving a whistle fest and isn't whining about officiating what a loser does? Also, can someone who doesn't know Brie Larson be called cultured?
Yeah, a lot of people think they're cultured and they aren't cultured. I wrote a column for the Columbia College student newspaper. I think I've told this story, where it was titled "Columbia Lacks Balls," and a lot of letters to the editor came in. And my beef with the school when I first got there was that all these film students and theater students and people who thought they were really cultured. But cultured isn't just knowing one thing. Cultured is being in the theater. Like, I know the entire score to Les Miserables. But I also watched the Nuggets Timberwolves last night while flipping back and forth between Inter Miami and Monterey in soccer. That's fucking culture.
Thank God you tweeted that out last night.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great TV on right now. Is there? I'm going to use some TV guru.
If all you know is film, then you're not cultured. You're just into one thing. That's all that is. Anyway, I'm going on a rant story, not worth telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, where if you want to have a conversation with somebody more interesting than me, it's a great place to take them. So anyway, the first part of this, who will people bitch about? I don't know. There'll be some big. Purdue's got another one coming in, so maybe that person. Maybe it'll be somebody at MSU. Maybe MSU will get a guy that drives to the lane and draws a lot of fouls. And the kid they're supposed to have on campus this weekend is that type of player. We'll see if he can do it at the high major level.
Richard Kane with a bonus here. If you want to see why people use the phrase Turkish prison, check out the 1978 movie Midnight Express, which is written by Oliver Stone.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I need to probably see that. I appreciate it, Richard.
Yeah. Sad Spartan.
You sound like...
I just see a movie from 78. I'm like, I'm good.
Okay.
I don't need to see that. Sad Spartan, I have recently had my first endeavor with Groovy Donuts, and they are delicious. On that note, I, too, don't understand the quality dairy slander. There's one on almost every block in Lansing and every smaller community. What is your favorite cutie donut, and why is it the glazed sour cream?
See, I don't mean to slander quality dairy. I love quality dairy. I do. I mean, not...
We grew up with quality dairy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Lansing guy. You can't be a Lansing guy and not like quality dairy.
He
I
wears
apologize.
a shirt that says he's from Lansing.
Yeah. I mean, I happen to be wearing a Freeport shirt today, but that's usually it's a Lansing shirt. I'm wearing I might have a Lansing hat on. I have no idea.
Wait, you didn't think about that outfit today? You just walked out.
Do I look like a guy who thinks about his outfits? There are times that I'm walking out the door that Elizabeth's like, like,
is
what?
that a medium?
She's like, you know those two colors don't really go together, right? Oh, really?
Oh, that's the problem.
I've been wearing this for 20 years. So no, cutie donuts are just not fresh, and that's all it is. They're just not made on location. They're not as fresh.
And they're not a sponsor. We love Groovy Donuts.
But they're also just not
delicious, and they're great people. We love Groovy Donuts.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean? Like,
and they're not as good. They're just not as good.
No.
Trust me, I've had lots of quality dairy donuts, and I don't hate them. I don't hate most donuts. I've had lots of gas station donuts. I don't hate them either. They're not the truly pleasurable experience of a Groovy donut. But
ice cream, Cutie
has great ice cream,
yeah.
and they're really convenient. They're everywhere, and you know the best.
Is this a live read? What are you doing?
I don't know. I like the Cutie in my or that's not far from my neighborhood, and one of my favorite things about it is if there's already a bullet hole in the glass, it's the safest place in Lansing because it's already been shot for the day. So that's
wow.
Sorry, fix that in post. Sorry, that's awful.
Mayor Graham Couch. Sad Spartan. What would Mel Tucker's donut be named if he had one named after him?
Ooh, you got to be careful here.
Why?
What would you call it if you had to name a donut after Mel Tucker?
The disappointment.
Just a disappointing donut?
Well, you can't get sexual, right?
Right.
You can't have like a cell phone or
right. So okay,
some porn stuff. It's gross.
So just a really
probably some filling to it. You know what we're trying to get at.
Really disappointing. Black licorice.
Jesus.
Well, that sounds racist.
But you want to be able to eat it.
I didn't mean that.
Licorice
I didn't mean
is racist
It's
now?
not. I just didn't mean to bring the black. Oh, this is the worst.
What happened to the show?
Oh, my God. I can't even believe what you said. No, what I meant is, like, that's like my least favorite taste is black licorice. That's what I was. So if you're looking for disappointment, you'd make a black licorice donut.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
All right, Skylar Verdon next. Was the previous season of college football filled with more off-field drama than any previous season you can remember, not including COVID? And do you like doing stories about off-field stuff or prefer to stick to on-field analysis in your columns?
A mixture of both. I mean, I like off-field stuff. I like good human interest stories. I don't even mind when things get kind of spicy and controversial once in a while. That's kind of fun.
Like a Mel Tucker donut.
Yeah.
With black licorice in it.
I didn't say that.
Wait, is that racist?
I don't know why I said that.
Just woke couch, dude.
The worst.
So guarded.
Yeah, no. Can I remember a previous season being this drama filled?
No.
This was pretty big. I mean, I have not covered Michigan State with another coach getting fired like this.
Sweating. Spartan Dog 97. Will the MSU FAU football game get moved to the Friday of Labor Day weekend? I have a non-negotiable wedding on that Saturday and don't want to be that guy watching the game on my phone.
It's a good question. They have been, except for the 1 year against Bowling Green in like 2017, they've all been moved. So
why does it make you that guy? Like, are you watching it as the bride walks down the aisle? I mean, that makes you that guy. But I mean, if the whole ceremony's over and you're walking towards the reception or driving to it, put the game on.
Yeah, and frankly, even Labor Day weekend, you're doing a fall wedding. These are the
right. You have to expect some of that,
yeah.
But don't be rude. And when the whole ceremony's going on.
But no, I do. The one thing I don't know, and I have not asked Alan Haller about this, but it's a good question. Because I don't know how much like a Jonathan Smith preference on doing that would matter. I don't know with more teams coming in and new TV situations or anything like that how much that will matter, because television is really what dictates it to some degree, and MSU has wanted it. I think MSU has liked having it, so I'd be surprised if MSU doesn't push for it. My question is the level of control, and then if for some reason like Jonathan Smith didn't want that sort of thing. But I would think it would be more than likely happening, or I guess the opponent has to agree to it too, and I think that's what – I can't remember if that was the Bowling Green year, if it was TV or the opponent. It might have been the opponent that particular year. Let's take a really quick break. We come back, we'll dig into more of your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options Cannabis, and also our friends at Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. And here's the best part. Mention Couch in the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a free GoPro 8 with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen, Bar, or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes Couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options Cannabis. And again, the block party for Pure Options at their Lansing location in Frandor is on 4/20, naturally. A great day for it. Sean Kingston, Desmond Jones, DJs, and more. A consumption event, live games, food trucks, and some incredible deals, like 20 pre-rolls for $42, $42 small bud ounces, $64 Pro Grow top shelf ounces. And anytime you go to Pure Options, any of their locations throughout the state, mid-Michigan and Lansing, West Michigan, up to Mount Pleasant, over the east side in Detroit. Let them know Couch of the Rube sent you, and if you spend $50 more, you get a free eighth of Pro Grow, terrific in-house brand from Pure Options. And they're going to do some cool things with the Detroit location in the NFL Draft that we'll get into a little later. Our what day is it? Thursday afternoon show, also presented by our friends at Firekeepers. Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. All right, back to the Groovy Donuts Twitter questions.
All right, Steve, up next. Would like to understand the current wacky world of NIL or third-party payment programs. Who sets the budget and manages the budget? Is there a budget? Who makes the offer? Is a contract signed? Do all athletes know what each other makes? Thanks. Signed, Curious in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, no, it's so NIL is done a lot of different ways. So within a team, if you're talking about a collective, a team will know how much NIL. Like, look, John Calipari just went to Arkansas knowing he was going to have $5 million, as reported, in NIL money. That's going to be just handled for him, and that's going to be there, and he can use it however he wants. And then they'll have people there who put together the contracts and whatever. It's basically a third-party payment program. It is not NIL. And then you have true NIL, where somebody wants an endorsement with an athlete. So everything's different. It's a Wild West right now. I would guess most athletes have an idea what different guys are making, but it's not something that has to all be shared. But that probably does create some issues in certain locker rooms. There's no question about it. It's something you've got to navigate. I don't think that's been as big an issue as I thought it was going to be. But with MSU football, like a year ago, there were like 15 guys making pretty decent money, and not a lot else, not a lot of other guys. And I'm sure that creates some issues as well. I think football is a harder sport to navigate the locker room because guys who get things in recruiting don't play right away, don't pan out. Guys who weren't supposed to, be as good wind up being key players and aren't really on big NIL contracts. I think that's a harder sport to navigate the locker room and navigate on NIL as it exists, or 3PS as we call it today.
Ken Chu, oh boy, I just lost my. Hold on a second.
No problem.
I just lost my. All right.
You okay?
Yeah, it just closed my browser.
Oh,
so you might want to read the next one.
I'll read the next one. I'll do Ken Chu, and then you can find some dude. Ken Chu says, "Why isn't Sparty in the mascot commercials anymore?" These were ESPN commercials, I think, and like I would wonder, and if that's what you're talking about, I would wonder if any Big Ten schools are in ESPN mascot commercials anymore, because ESPN doesn't have a deal with the Big Ten. So I would guess you don't see that, and I don't know how many mascot commercials I see on ESPN as much anymore, but that would be the reasoning if that's what you're referring to.
All right, I'm back. Some dude next. Why the fuck are the Tigers broadcasts so fucking good all of a sudden? It can't be just Benetti. You guys live in that world, at least a little bit. Do you know anything? New producers. Baked. ... Baked. Someone getting high?
Some dude's got some pure options through his veins.
No, it was all Shep. I actually talked to the executive at Bally's.
That was it?
Yeah, he said it was all Shep.
There you go. That's
he said enjoy the new broadcast.
Benetti's pretty good. He's really good. And I think that, but they may have done some other upgrades too. I think they wanted a better broadcast.
But what's the difference between Shep and Benetti? Benetti likes to have fun. Benetti can,
Yeah.
Shep was just too rigid.
It's pacing, it's delivery, it's voice, it's
being able to not give a shit and make it look professional.
Yeah. I mean, some guys just have it, and he does. He's
Paul E. Show next. It's going to be a long summer. We're only 10 games in, and Jason is already ranting about the Tigers. Anyways, what's the difference between Xavier Booker at the 4 or 5 in MSU's offense? Is one better for the team? Is one better for his draft projection?
It doesn't make a difference for his draft. And coaches and any decent GM or personnel person in the NBA should get this. Like, this was one of the mistakes of Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges in 2017-18 would have been better off at the 4. He's a better 4 in college basketball. Wanted to play on the wing. That's where he was going to be as a pro. Wanted those skills to develop. You can do both. And, like, the NBA was going to make him a lottery pick either way. And I don't know. That stuff drives me nuts. I do think it depends on who else you have in the lineups you're facing. There are some intriguing things about having a guy as skilled as Xavier Booker at the 5 if he can defend the position with his length. And but often the 4 is somebody who's a trailing 4-man, has been part of MSU's historic offense, is something that's been great when they've been able to have it in whether it be Joey Hauser, whether it be Adrian Payne, whether it be Draymond Green hitting threes coming down the court. Right, so that's but you can adjust that, so it's the 5. Like, it doesn't make a big difference. I don't think there has to be a huge difference in terms of the offense. It's how you choose to play it and what you go through. But the 4-man is more likely to be on the perimeter, and that's where Booker is most comfortable. But if you're not throwing the ball into the post anyway, it's fine to have your 5 out there, and then you can have a 4 on the inside. You can do a lot of different things. It just doesn't make that big of a difference, and it shouldn't matter to his draft projection.
David Jackson next. Is there any chance that the new MSU basketball assistant coach will convince Izzo that it's okay for his bigs to flop a bit to draw offensive fouls? I think that George Papadakis was the last MSU post player to draw a charge call against an opposing center.
I would love for you to be in that interview, David, and be like, this is what I really need. I need I try to think about this. There's got to be some guys who've drawn charges. I remember charges being drawn by Matt Costello. Maybe not against opposing centers, but I do remember charges being drawn.
I think David remembers too.
Yeah. I'm not going to question.
He remembers every play that's happened since 1975 or whatever.
I'm not going to question your memory.
Pretty impressive. David. I've seen it in person.
Yeah. So I maybe the new assistant will do that for you.
Next one from David. If Purdue's 4 other starters and bench had played this season with MSU's 3 bigs instead of Edey and his backup, would Purdue have been any better than this year's MSU team? Particularly if you assume that Walker and Fears had no injury issues.
No. I mean, you put Edey on MSU, they're in the championship game. I mean, as good as Braden Miller was, Braden
Anderson.
Fuck you. Fuck,
wow,
hold on.
Jesus,
sorry,
man, that was
aggressive.
It sounded real.
Oh my God, it's been too long. Braden Smith,
yeah.
Braden Miller. Who's Braden Miller? I got to look up Braden.
Brandon Miller.
Brandon Miller's
Alabama.
Son of a goat. I don't know why that brain fart happened. As good as Braden Smith was, like the difference. Yeah, you would rather have the rest of now. That was a really good. I should be careful because that was a really good Purdue team that I think complemented each other well. But if you I would rather have everybody else around Zach Edey that MSU had.
Travis Maynard at a school like Purdue in this pay-for-play portal era. Let's call it PTP because that's what it is. Was this past season their best realistic shot at a national championship? If you can't win with a generational force like Edey at Purdue, when can you?
Well, in 2011, they would have been the best team if Robbie Hummel doesn't tear his ACL. Like that. Like they've had teams that were – it's not like he's never put together a different type of team that was dominant. So and he's had some other great big men. I don't want to put it past Matt Painter to have another run in him. It's probably unlikely it's next year. But you never know. Like if you've got – if you've got a guy like Braden Smith, who's a really good point guard that you're going to have for a couple more years, that, obviously he might be somebody people want to play with. He gets guys the ball where they want it. Like if I'm a shooter, if I'm a big man, I want to play with that guy. And I'm not putting it past him to put and the other thing is there are going to be years where there is a great team that's sometimes better than you, and sometimes that team doesn't exist, and sometimes you are that team. But MSU has run into that before. I mean, MSU has run into the 2000, you think about teams 2009 North Carolina, 2012 Kentucky. There are years where that team is there, and it just means you're probably less likely to win a title.
Travis Maynard, sure, Purdue has a good class coming in, but the early preseason rankings love they're getting is befuddling. Even Andy Katz has them number 1 in the Big Ten. What am I missing?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just
how good is this dude coming in for Edey then?
Well, and the big thing is nobody knows what anybody else is really going to have in the Big Ten. That's the other thing. Like when half the sport is in the portal, like it was always.
With that said, give me your top 5 Big Ten rankings right now.
It was always a fruitless exercise. It was always silly. Now it's just ridiculous. Now you're just fucking wasting time. You really are wasting time at this point.
Chuck Fish. What if the team MSU beat 4 times this season wins the NCAA Hockey National Championship? And from Jay Riemenschneider. It hurts losing to a rival, which sends them to a Frozen Four, but you do agree that if Michigan hockey doesn't win it all, MSU's season will have been significantly better in the rivalry and overall. It's kind of like Izzo. Getting to Final Fours is awesome, but damn, you got to win it sometimes.
Couple things here. One, obviously, if you're a Michigan State fan, you don't want Michigan to win the Frozen Four and win the national title in hockey. That goes without saying. I don't think it affects how Michigan State feels about its season. You beat Michigan 4 times. You weren't any better than them. They were as good as you. We saw that play out on the ice. They beat you in the NCAA tournament, and your program is on the absolute rise. Generally, I mean, it wouldn't matter if you lost to them, didn't play them. You don't. In some ways, losing to them only makes them winning the national championship feel like, okay, well, we lost to the eventual national champions. But if you're Michigan State and you're a Michigan State fan and Michigan wins the national title any year, you're not going to enjoy that. To the point on where it is in the rivalry and everything. I think the rivalry, Michigan State's got to do it more than 1 year in that rivalry. They've got it. I mean, and I think they will. I think that program is on its way up. I think it's going to be a fantastic rivalry. I think it's going to be 2 elite programs for a long time, as long as the coaching situations are what they are and everything. But getting to a Final, the last part, getting to a Final Four is awesome, but you got to win it sometimes. Hockey's just different too. Hockey, the one-offs in hockey, you can be the best team and it cannot happen that night. I think, look at Michigan State's history in hockey. A guy like Ron Mason has the same amount of national titles as Rick Comley, and nobody would argue the two are the same, right? So, I mean, it just – and even the year Rick Comley won it, that wound up being a really good team, but Mason probably had 6 or 7 teams better than that 2007 team, and hockey's just different that way.
Next one from Jay. MSU football and Michigan basketball both made coaching hires that seemed great. Do you think one is more of a no-brainer, or do you have grades for the hires?
I think both were good hires. I mean, obviously, you have to see how they play out. But in terms of in the moment, I mean, you'd call them both good hires. I don't know if there'd be a grade for them. But, yeah, you have to see if they win and what they're able to do. But I think both were stabilizing, smart hires. And, that's often Michigan State football and Michigan basketball have been compared, going back to Beeline D'Antonio in that sense.
Bo McJunkins, can Diana Taurasi, Lynette Woodard, and all the others just go away for a bit? Your sport is at a high point, and you're doing everything you can to torpedo it with the Clark hate.
Here's a counterpoint, though, Jason. Like, I think it's only adding. I think you want a little bit of. You don't want everybody to be kumbaya. Like the fact that
1,000%.
They're already doing a promo with Diana Taurasi about her being the goat versus the rook when Clark plays her in the WNBA. Like they're already creating this. Who's not going to watch that game now?
It's good for basketball. And they went to UConn, right? Like they're UConn people. Like what's wrong with being proud of your university, right? How bad did they shit on Clark? I guess I should listen to it first.
They've been tough on her a little bit. Some of the stuff about the stuff about you have to be when a child to be the GOAT, when in a sport where
what's wrong with that take? Though?
Well, because in their sport, like all the best players went to one school. If Diana Taurasi went to Iowa, she doesn't have any titles. You know what I mean? Like, and so let's back off that a little bit. It's not a sport where there's been a parity of any sort for most of its history. That's changing, which is awesome. But I'm going to tell you, there are games, and I'm not going to watch every Caitlin Clark WNBA game. But when she plays, Diana Taurasi, or there's a little venom coming at her, I'm more likely to tune in.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Everybody loves that kind of stuff. Bo McJunkins, have you guys heard this Matt Weiss and Conor Stallions stories? I can't wait to find out more someday. Maybe after college golf season when there's more free time to cover. And from Ryan Schultz, which happens first? OJ finds the real killer, or CMU uncovers how Conor Stallions was allowed on their sideline?
I think this was written before OJ died.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, Ryan, well done.
Well, they're both in heaven right now, the killer and OJ.
Along with David Koresh, right? Sorry, that earlier. See, so
timely references on this show.
Yeah, we addressed somebody's got to do the Stallion story at some point. And
take your time. We're here.
Yeah,
we're subscribed until 2029.
Well, you're stuck. Yeah,
I'm stuck.
Right.
Yeah,
no, you
write
can't.
Whatever you want. You don't care.
Once you subscribe, there's no getting out of it.
You're in for life. Bo McJunkins, Graham, how soon before things became public was there a feeling that Mel Tucker train was possibly coming off the tracks off the field? Or was everyone blindsided?
In terms of off the field, in terms of with him, there was...
Blindsided.
Yeah, no.
Blind, capital B.
You were blindsided?
What, that Michigan State's coach was having phone sex
with
a sexual assault survivor?
Yeah.
Just a tad.
The particular incident was blindsiding. Yeah, that there were,
that was possible.
That not everything was hunky-dory, maybe a little bit before. But
at a university that's just gone through a fucking scandal.
Yeah, no.
I was a little blindsided.
The details of it were certainly, and I did learn them a couple weeks before the story, just because we're tied in with USA Today, and Kenny Jacoby wrote the story.
You held that inside? You didn't say a word?
No.
Wow.
No, the weirdest thing that night. So I didn't think it was coming out that night. At that point, there was some talk that it wouldn't come out till October 5th or 6th when the hearings happened for the Title IX hearing. But even if it came out sooner, and it sounded like it was going to come out sooner, and part of that was Brenda Tracy's choice, we didn't think it was happening that night. Like I came. It was Matt Charbonneau's final game for the Detroit News, covering Michigan State. So covered the game, wrote the quick takes, did the grades, all that stuff. The video was Solari, and then we met at a bar in downtown Lansing, and had a few drinks. And then I was going to go home, and I was going to be up all night writing like a football column on the win over Richmond. That was my plan. I'm glad I didn't write it ahead of time. As we were at the bar, news started to break that story was going to come out, and wrote a very different column that night, which was my most read column of last year, on why Mel Tucker would never coach again at Michigan State.
Mr. Ben Jen next, out of MSU's men's and women's basketball, hockey, football, and gymnastics, which program is best positioned to have long-term success and the worst positioned?
Wait a sec. Where is this? All right, sorry, I missed it. I got you. That's a good question. Out of men's and women's basketball, hockey, football, and gymnastics, you'd have to say long-term success that hockey right now is an unbelievable place. They've got a young coach who has it figured out pretty quickly. They've got some advantages being Michigan State relative to the rest of the sport. I think they're in a great spot as long as Adam Nightingale is the coach. And, I mean, he just seems to get it. Seems like they struck gold. Women's basketball, though, I think is going to have a really good – I do think Robin Freilich is a heck of a hire. And so I think that is – even though you haven't seen success to the level of hockey, and I would argue that women's basketball in some ways – I mean, she's a year behind Nightingale in terms of when she was hired, and she had a year similar to his first year. So let's see what she's able to do in years 2 and 3 and whatnot. Gymnastics, obviously they've got it rolling right now. And I do think to take the next step, there's probably some facility stuff that needs to happen to allow them to compete with the very top programs, because they're getting some unbelievable people in there, and to try and keep that full staff together, at least their top assistant with Mike Rowe, and she's real important. But football, it's so worst position. You'd have to say it's football. Because it just hasn't happened that much in history. So of all those sports, I would say it's football, without question.
Shep up next. Excuse me. I saw where the mayor of Iowa City said that Caitlin Clark was responsible for $92 million in increased economic activity in Iowa. Saw where the WNBA ticket prices are 15 times more for games she may play in. Why wouldn't she demand X% of the WNBA's revenue increase versus the 2023 baseline? She's in a unique leverage position.
Yeah, I mean, I edited this a little bit, but part of the next part was that she could go back to Iowa for NIL and
yeah, but she already said goodbye.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. But there is an argument that, right, she's worth a ton, but you don't want to be – you become a villain real quick if you're trying to – like right now, she's in an interesting spot marketing-wise. She's the beloved one. The others are the villains. It's a great sort of pro wrestling, storylines – that's going to make her a ton of money off the court. If you become this sort of person that's demanding that before you even play a single game in the WNBA is trying to demand revenue and all that stuff in a sport that is frankly so propped up by the NBA, I just don't think that's a good look, nor is it something she needs, because she's going to make so much money off the court.
And I think the WNBA needs to start generating money, right? First, Mojo Jojo Graham, can you detail out Izzo's Cold Stone Creamery style ranking of his players? Like it, love it, gotta have it.
So he always says players either like it, love it, or live it, right? That's his deal. And I think he's got 2 guys on his team right now that he would say live it to. One being Jaden Akins, and the other for sure is probably Jackson Kohler. A lot of love it. But yeah, that's sort of what he and you get used to knowing exactly what he means by it. And there are very few players that actually live it. Like, he does not say live it very often. That was the Denzel Valentine stuff, where it just somebody's just there and it exists in the gym to play basketball. This is who they are, and it makes a difference.
Mojo Jojo, is that we're all still pissed at the University of Michigan, or that there was no ramification still on Harburger, Wild Stallions, the guy with the computer, the multiple DUIs with players and coaches? Do we need to continue, Graham? Would be great to have real facts versus rug sweeping.
Look, I don't cover the University of Michigan on a daily basis.
Welcome to the blue wall.
I'm not gonna. I've told you the blue curtain mentality. I'm not going to defend what has not been always tremendous reporting and accountability on the University of Michigan athletics. That's fair. It's not always been there, and some of this stuff is been covered probably better than you realize. Just because I'm not saying the Stallions thing has, certainly not putting that there. Just because you don't read every story, because there are times where people go, "Why hasn't there been this?" And I Google it and I find the story, and it was December 4th, and you're like, "Oh, I missed it." People miss stories, and so they are out there. I would, but I'm not here to defend other people, even though they sometimes sound like it.
Although I do. Mojo Jojo, any connections at Bally Sports, Jason? When can we expect to get April and the D back on the airwaves, or any special guest renditions? Oh, you want Lats to do it?
Lats doing April and the D.
To do it?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. That's so bad. Clint, One Ball Baney, Rube. I didn't know you were cool enough to be a Black Crowes fan. They saved my rock and roll soul over 30 years ago. Yeah. No, I've been, not as big of a fan as you are, but we wanted to go. Aerosmith and Black Crowes had to cancel. Well, they're doing it again, but they canceled their tour. So saw them in Nashville, kick off their tour. Their new album's pretty awesome. I know Graham would like it. But, yeah, got to see them at the Grand Ole Opry. It was pretty badass.
There are two people who have been kicked off the stage of the Grand Ole Opry.
Who's that?
Johnny Cash. And a lot of people seen that where he broke the lights. Second one, great singer by the name of Nico Case. She took her shirt off on stage.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's a story we're telling presented by Midtown Brewing.
Why would they kick her off?
I don't know. Yeah.
Clint Baney, what year does MSU next beat Michigan football? What year do we next lose to Michigan in basketball?
Yeah, I think, basketball is an easier thing to rebuild at the transfer portal quickly, and so it's probably more likely on the road, especially that happens soon. Could be next year. In football, I think Michigan will take a little bit of a dip. I don't know how much Michigan State's ready to compete with them next year, so it's probably more likely to happen in basketball in the next couple of years than it is football, but said that before, and it could happen in the next couple of years.
The last one from One Ball. Will the Tigers snag at least a wild card spot?
Well, there are 12 of them now, right? So it's a little more possible. It would be awesome if we're talking about the Tigers in late September and they're in the wild card hunt. It would be fun. I'm really hopeful. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they have. It seems like the problem with their lineup right now is there are going to be a couple 6 and 7 game losing streaks this season because they don't have the bats to prevent it.
Beppe Plum next. What's creepier, a porn stash or sitting alone in the park while kids are playing? Kids seem to know I'm a teacher or something because they always want to talk to me. Not cool. Hence why I have no porn stash. Also, spam, yay or nay? Hashtag groovy spam donuts.
I doubt Groovy Donuts is going to do spam.
Ugh.
I'm not a spam guy, and I like a lot of different kind of meat.
Edit that in post.
I am not. Yeah, I'm not picky.
So you've tried spam.
I've tried spam.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan. It's not.
I didn't need to try it to see that.
Yeah, it's.
It looks like a turd. It smells like a turd.
Yeah,
tastes like a turd.
Sitting like a porn stash on its own is less creepy than sitting alone in a park while kids are playing.
I don't know, but it's coming back. Like the young kids now, they're wearing the mustache.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's less creepy.
Yeah, it's less creepy.
Yeah. If you're sitting alone, I thought you're saying it's. I don't know. It's coming back.
But you have to
sitting
be
alone
younger.
in a park.
Right, but you have to be younger. It also helps, if you're 45 and have a stash.
If you're sitting alone near where kids are playing alone as like a 45-year-old dude, it's.
That's almost as weird as coaching a soccer team that you don't have a child on.
Yeah, who would do that?
Or 9 years old or whatever.
6.
Jesus, even younger?
Let me tell you about that team, though. I think those kids are about 9 now, though. They're getting older.
You're playing with fire. We're over 2 hours here.
Sorry.
All right. Dark Mantonio, how mad will Louisville Nation be if Scott Drew takes the Kentucky job after turning down the Cardinals just a few weeks earlier?
Well, he didn't. So, yeah, I guess they're not happy by it. I haven't seen a ton of venom. That kind of just broke as we were starting to do the show today. So, it's tough if you're Kentucky. Like, who do you go after? There aren't that many, who can you throw enough money at? That's and Kentucky's not the job it used to be because because of NIL, there's so many other ways to win. And I also think that there are places where you talk about toxic fan bases where the expectations are so high and it's such a fishbowl. I'm not sure a lot of coaches want to live that environment.
Next one from Dark Mantonio. I'm not saying they have to win all the titles, but who's more likely to stay at the top? Georgia football doing it the way they do it, or UConn basketball doing it the way they do it?
Well, if Kirby Smart's there, UConn seems to have something down, but there are going to be years where they get the wrong transfer. They got the right transfers this year, mid-major guys and all that stuff too, and that's not always going to happen. The Georgia football, though, is not going to stop. I mean, that's pretty much a machine at this point. As long as Kirby Smart is there and energized, I would give it slightly to Georgia.
Jake Hawkins, which center in the transfer portal do you think Izzo should reach out to? The one from Arizona or Indiana State? Excuse me for not knowing their names off the top of my head.
Appreciate it, Jake. Robbie, we'll call him. The glasses guy at Indiana State is not the guy you want. He's just not.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
You have, this is the type of stuff we got to stop doing as fans in the sense that, he is so similar to Jackson Kohler in certain ways. It's not if Jackson Kohler went to Indiana State next year, he may have the same exact year that guy had.
Oh, transfer.
I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that, and I think Kohler actually may be a better rebounder and have some things. He's certainly lost some of the baby fat that Robbie still has. So you don't want him.
Next one from Jake. Which college basketball coach is so crazy that you probably wouldn't want your kid playing for them? Dan Hurley or Kim Mulkey?
I don't mind. Hurley comes across as nuts when you're watching him. But he holds kids accountable, and he's young enough to get away with it, and he's not the old
Mulkey.
man. Yeah, Mulkey's crazy, and she's also, I think, can be a little vile.
It's a lot vile. You start there. You started vile.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Jake Hawkins, why do you think Purdue and its fans have been so patient and tolerant of Matt Painter since it took him almost 20 years to get to a Final Four and a national championship game?
Well, a couple things. One, it wasn't.
They watched Gene Katie for how many years?
Right. It's who you've.
They're a patient bunch.
Think about Michigan State. If Michigan State if Tom Izzo had not won in 2000, but had gotten to the Elite Eight in 98, 99, and then in 2000, and then had been to the Sweet 16 a bunch of times. If they didn't know the title was a possibility, if they were yearning for the Final Four and close enough to be relevant, that's part of it. You just know you have a good thing. You know you're not going to be better than that. Painter is somebody who has set the expectations the way Izzo has at Michigan State, and the expectations have been slightly lower because they haven't done it.
Next one from Jake. Any inside information about how spring football practice is going for MSU?
All good things you always hear. I've never covered a spring practice where they thought it was going to shit, ever, at any school. It's remarkable. It's like a press conference of a new coach the first day every year. Quarterback's good enough, running backs are good. There's new energy. There's some things they fixed from last year. Offensive line's going to be better. Defense is getting ready. This is going to be it. This is going to every year, every program in the country, and it's really phenomenal work by every coach.
Last one from the Hawk. Great column on ranking 10 MSU basketball teams that possibly could have won the national championship. Out of the 10, how many do you think should have won titles, and which teams should they be?
Yeah, because I didn't rank them on teams that should have won the title. I ranked it on how good they were at their peak, right? Because the team that didn't make that list is 2009-10, which is in the weakest Final Four, and if Kalen Lucas doesn't get hurt, probably wins the national title. 2013-14 should have won a title if they, even with Appling's wrist injury, they had a 9-point lead against UConn in the first half. 2018-19, the team that beat Duke with Cassius Winston, I think that might have been the best team of the Final Four. The way they were playing, and they played a bad game and hit a semi-rough matchup. I'm probably leaving out some others, but those are two that stand out. 17-18, Izzo always says is one. I disagree. I don't think they were ever that connected offensively, or they just weren't. They didn't live up to who they were, even though they won 30 games in terms of pound for pound talent.
My favorite upper deck jerk guy next. Will there come a day when a whole team transfers?
Sure.
Arkansas.
Absolutely. Yeah, nobody's on the roster, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Coach Cal,
100%.
all alone.
And, yeah, coach is leaving. Yes, you will see it, or something going wrong in the program. Yes.
Jerk guy, ever tried anything out of the Kama Sutra?
I'll ask you this.
I don't have the patience, man.
Okay. Yeah.
Upper Deck Jerk guy, swimming in Shar Gaga Guga Mana Chuga Guga Chada Bunga Mug. Is he mad at me? What is this word? Is on my bucket list. What's on yours?
It's a lake in the town of Webster, Massachusetts. Looks nice.
You didn't look up Kama Sutra?
I wasn't going to Google it.
Kama Sutra and Sting. Sting used to do that. That's how I learned about Kama Sutra.
Yeah. Bucket list for me is 7 Saturdays in the fall, covering the Premier League instead of Michigan State football.
7 donuts.
Yeah, with groovy donuts. Yeah.
All right. Lastly, from the Jerk guy, what's your preferred Pure Options go-to, and what Groovy Donuts do you eat after?
Give me your Pure
Red
Options.
Velvet.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the Pro Grow flour is some of the best that you're going to get in Michigan, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's in-house brand, and look, they have everything there. They have beyond,
and I've tried a lot of it.
Yeah,
so I know.
Yeah. I've enjoyed several of the edible options they have there as well. And you can do the same by going to their block party on 4/20. That's April 20th, if you haven't put that together. Sean Kingston performing with Desmond Jones, DJ Rock City, a lot of other DJs there as well. Should be a really cool setting and environment. Go to pureoptions.com for more information. Starts at 10 a.m. We also appreciate Firekeepers. Go to Firekeepers and download the app today, or go to Firekeepers or download the app today. And bet the Masters. You want to lose money on golf? Firekeepers will take your money. They'll happily do it. We appreciate Midtown Brewing Company, and great place to have a date night this weekend or go to brunch on Sunday. And Groovy Donuts, of course, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday, or go to groovydonuts.com. Place an order today. We'll be back Monday. Some hot takes. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Rube.